ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaste my dear friends. This is video number 5 on Gospel of Bhagwan Sri Ramakrishna Parmahamsa. This is video number 5 and it starts with identity of Brahma and Shakti. Thus Brahma and Shakti are identical. If you accept the one, you must accept the other. It is like fire and its power to burn. If you see the fire, you must recognize its power to burn also. You cannot think of fire without its power to burn, nor can you think of the power to burn without fire. You cannot conceive of the sun's rays without the sun, nor can you conceive of the sun without its rays. What is milk like? Oh, you say, it is something white. You cannot think of the milk without the whiteness, and again, you cannot think of the whiteness without the milk. Thus, one cannot think of Brahma without Shakti, or of Shakti without Brahma. One cannot think of the absolute without the relative, or of the relative without the absolute. The primordial power is ever at play. She is creating, preserving, and destroying its play as it were. This power is called Kali. Kali is verily Brahma, and Brahma is verily Kali. It is one and the same reality. When we think of it as inactive, that is to say, not engaged in the acts of creation, preservation, and destruction, then we call it Brahma. But when it engages in these activities, then we call it Kali or Shakti. The reality is one and the same. The difference is in name and form. It is like water called in different languages by different names such as Jal, Pani, and so forth. There are 3 or 4 ghats on a lake. The Hindus who drink water at one place call it Jal. The Muslims at another place call it Pani, and the English at a third place call it water. All 3 denote one and the same thing, the difference being in the name only. In the same way, some address the reality as Allah, some as God, some as Brahma, some as Kali, and others by such names as Rama, Jesus, Durga, Hari. Different manifestations of Kali. Kesab with a smile. Describe to us, sir, in how many ways Kali, the Divine Mother, sports in this world. Master with a smile. Oh, she plays in different ways. It is she alone who is known as Mahakali, Nitya Kali, Samsana Kali, Raksha Kali, and Shama Kali. Mahakali and Nitya Kali are mentioned in the Tantra philosophy. When there were neither the creation nor the sun, the moon, the planets, and the earth, and when darkness was enveloped in darkness, then the mother, the formless one, Mahakali, the great power, was one with Mahakala, the Absolute. Shamakali has a somewhat tender aspect and is worshipped in the Hindu households. She is the dispenser of boons and the dispeller of fear. People worship Raksha Kali, the protectress, in times of epidemic, famine, earthquake, drought, and flood. Samsana Kali is the embodiment of the power of destruction. She resides in the cremation ground, surrounded by corpses, jackals, and terrible female spirits. From her mouth flows a stream of blood. From her neck hangs a garland of human heads, and round her waist is a girdle made of human hands, beginning of a cycle. After the destruction of the universe at the end of a great cycle, the Divine Mother garners the seeds for the next creation. She is like the elderly mistress of the house who has a hodgepodge pot in which she keeps different articles for household use or love. Oh, yes, housewives have pots like that where they keep sea foam, blue pills, small bundles of seeds of cucumber, pumpkin, and gourd, and so on. We take them out when we want them. In the same way, after the destruction of the universe, my Divine Mother, the embodiment of Brahma, gathers together the seeds for the next creation. After the creation, the primal power dwells in the universe itself. She brings forth this phenomenal world and then pervades it. In the Vedas, creation is likened to the spider and its web. The spider brings the web out of itself and then remains in it. God is the container of the universe and also what is contained in it. Is Kali my divine mother of a black complexion? She appears black because she is viewed from a distance, but when intimately known, she is no longer so. The sky appears blue at a distance, but look at it close by and you will find that it has no color. The water of the ocean looks blue at a distance, but when you go near and take it in your hand, you find that it is colorless. The master became intoxicated with the divine love and sang, "Is Kali, my mother, really black? The naked one of blackest hue lights the lotus of the heart." The master continued, "Bondage and liberation are both of her making. By her Maya, worldly people become entangled in woman and gold, and again, through her grace, they attain their liberation. She is called Savior and the remover of the bondage and binds one to the world." Divine Mother's sport. Then the master sang the following song: in his melodious voice. In the world's busy marketplace, O Shama, thou art flying kites. High up they soar on the wind of hope, held fast by Maya's string. Their frames are human skeletons, their sails of the three gunas made, but all their curious workmanship is merely for ornament. Upon the kite strings thou hast rubbed the manja paste of worldliness so as to make each straining strand all the more sharp and strong. Out of 100,000 kites, at best but one or two break free, and thou dost laugh and clay and clap thy hands, O mother, watching them on favoring winds. Says Ram Prasad, the kites set loose will speedily be borne away to the infinite across the sea of the world. The Master said, the Divine Mother is always playful and sportive. This universe is her play. She is self-willed and must always have her own way. She is full of bliss. She gives freedom to one out of 100,000, a Brahmo devotee. But, sir, if she likes, she can give freedom to all. Why then has she kept us bound to the world? Master, that is her will. She wants to continue playing with her created beings in a game of hide and seek. The running about soon stops if in the beginning all the players touch the granny. If all touch her, then how can the game go on? That displeases her. Her pleasure is in continuing the game. Therefore, the poet said, out of 100,000 kites, at best but one or two break free, and thou dost laugh and clap thy hands, O mother, watching them. Reassurance to householders. It is as if the Divine Mother said to the human mind in confidence, with a sign from her eye, go and enjoy the world. How can one blame the mind? The mind can disentangle itself from worldliness if, through her grace, she makes it turn towards herself. Only then does it become devoted to the lotus feet of the Divine Mother. Whereupon Sri Ramakrishna, taking upon himself, as it were, the agonies of all householders, sang a song complaining to the Divine Mother. Mother, this is the grief that sorely grieves my heart, that even with thee for mother, and though I am wide awake, there should be robbery in my house. Many and many a time I vow to call on thee. Yet when the time for prayer comes around, I have forgotten. Now I see it is all thy trick. As thou hast never given, so thou received not. Am I to blame for this, O mother? Hadst thou but given, surely then thou hadst received. Out of thine own gifts I should have given to thee. Glory and shame, bitter and sweet, are thine alone. This world is nothing but thy play. Then why, O blissful one, dost thou cause a rift in it? Says Ram Prasad, thou hast bestowed on me this mind, and with a knowing wink of thine eye, bidden it at the same time to go and enjoy the world. And so I wander here, forlorn through thy creation, blasted as it were by someone's evil glance, taking the bitter for the sweet, taking the unreal for the real. The master continued, men are deluded through her maya and have become attached to the world. Says Ram Prasad, thou hast bestowed on me this mind, and with a knowing wink of thine eye, bidden it at the same time to go and enjoy the world. Brahma devotee, sir, can't we realize God without complete renunciation? Master, with a laugh, of course you can. Why should you renounce everything? You are all right as you are, following the middle path like molasses, partly solid and partly liquid. Do you know the game of max? Having scored the maximum number of points, I am out of the game. I cannot enjoy it, but you are very clever. Some of you have scored 10 points, some 6 and some 5. You have scored just the right number, so you are not out of the game like me. The game can go on. Why, that's fine, or laugh. I tell you the truth, there is nothing wrong in your being in the world, but you must direct your mind towards God, otherwise you will not succeed. Do your duty with one hand and with the other hold to God. After the duty is over, you will hold to God with both hands. Bondage and liberation are of the mind. It is all a question of the mind. Bondage and liberation are of the mind alone. The mind will take the color you dye it with. It is like white clothes just returned from the laundry. If you dip them in red dye, they will be red. If you dip them in blue or green, they will be blue or green. They will take only the color you dip them in, whatever it may be. Have not you noticed that if you read a little English, you at once begin to utter English words, put, fat, it, mit. Then you put on boots and whistle a tune and so on. It all goes together. Or if a scholar studies Sanskrit, he will at once rattle off Sanskrit verses. If you are in bad company, then you will talk and think like your companions. On the other hand, when you are in the company of devotees, you will think and talk only of God. The mind is everything. A man has his wife on one side and his daughter on the other. He shows his affection to them in different ways, but his mind is one and the same. Bondage is of the mind and freedom is also of the mind. A man is free if he constantly thinks, I am a free soul. How can I be bound whether I live in the world or in the forest? I am a child of God, the King of Kings, Who can bind me? If beaten by a snake, a man may get rid of its venom by saying emphatically, "There is no poise in me." In the same way, by repeating with grit and determination, "I am not bound, I am free," one really becomes so, one really becomes free. Once someone gave me a book of the Christians. I asked him to read it to me. It talked about nothing but sin. To Keshav, sin is the only thing one hears of at your Brahma smalls too. The wretch who constantly says, I am bound, only succeeds in being bound. He who says day and night, I am a sinner, verily becomes a sinner. Redeeming power of faith. One should have such burning faith in God that one can say, "What? I have repeated the name of God, and can sin still cling to me? How can I be a sinner any more? How can I be in bondage any more?" If a man repeats the name of God, his body, mind, and everything become pure. Why should one talk only about sin and hell and such things? Say but once, "O Lord, I have undoubtedly done wicked things, but I won't repeat them," and have faith in His name. Sri Ramakrishna became intoxicated with divine love and sang, "If only I can pass away repeating Durga's name, how canst thou then, O Blessed One, withhold from me deliverance, wretched though I may be?" Master's Prayer. Then he said to my Divine Mother, I prayed only for pure love. I offered flowers at her lotus feet and prayed to her, "Mother, here is thy virtue, here is thy vice. Take them both and grant me only pure love for thee. Here is thy knowledge, here is thy ignorance. Take them both and grant me only pure love for thee. Here is thy purity, here is thy impurity. Take them both, Mother, and grant me only pure love for thee. Here is thy dharma, here is thy adharma. Take them both, Mother, and grant me only pure love for thee." To the Brahmo devotee. Now listen to a song by Ram Prasad. Come, let us go for a walk, O mind, to Kali, the wish-fulfilling tree, and there beneath it gather the four fruits of life, of your two wives, dispassion and worldliness. Bring alone dispassion only on your way to the tree, and ask her son discrimination about the truth. When will you learn to lie, O mind, in the abode of blessedness, with cleanliness and defilement on either side of you? Only when you have found the way to keep these wives contentedly under a single roof will you behold the matchless form of Mother Shama. Ego and ignorance, your parents, instantly vanish from your sight, and should delusion seek to drag you to its hole, manfully cling to the pillar of patience, tie to the post of unconcern the goats of vice and virtue, killing them with the sword of knowledge if they rebel. With the children of worldliness, your first wife plead from a goodly distance, and if they will not listen, drown them in wisdom's sea, says Ram Prasad. If you do as I say, you can submit a good account, O mind, to the king of death. And I shall be well pleased with you and call you my darling. Why should not one be able to realize God in this world? King Janka had such realization. Ram Prasad described the world as a mere framework of illusion. But if one loves God's hallowed feet, then this very world is a mansion of mirth. Here I can eat, here drink and make merry. Janka's might was unsurpassed. What did he lack of the world or the spirit? Holding to one as well as the other, he drank his milk from a brimming cup. All laughed. But one cannot be a King Janka all of a sudden. Janka at first practiced much austerity in solitude. Solitude for householders. Even if one lives in the world, one must go into solitude now and then. It will be of great help to a man if he goes away from his family, lives alone and weeps for good even for 3 days. Even if he thinks of God for one day in solitude, when he has the leisure, that too will do him good. People shed a whole jug of tears for wife and children, but who cries for the Lord? Now and then one must go into solitude and practice spiritual discipline to realize God. Living in the world and entangled in many of its duties, the aspirant during the first stage of spiritual life finds many obstacles in the path of concentration. While the trees on the footpath are young, they must be fenced around, otherwise they will be destroyed by cattle. The fence is necessary when the tree is young, but it can be taken away when the trunk is thick and strong. Then the tree won't be hurt even if an element is tied to it. Malady of worldly people and its cure. The disease of worldliness is like typhoid, and there are a huge jug of water and a jar of savory pickles in the typhoid patient's room. If you want to cure him of his illness, you must remove him from that room. The worldly man is like the typhoid patient. The various objects of enjoyment are the huge jug of water, and the craving for their enjoyment is his thirst. The very thought of pickles makes the mouth water. You don't have to bring them near, and he is surrounded with them. The companionship of woman is the pickles, hence treatment in solitude is necessary. One may enter the world after attaining discrimination and dispassion. In the ocean of the world, there are 6 alligators: lust, anger, and so forth. But you need not fear the alligators if you smear your body with turmeric before you go into the water. Discrimination and dispassion are the turmeric. Discrimination is the knowledge of what is real and what is unreal. It is the realization that God alone is the real and eternal substance, and that all else is unreal, transitory, impermanent, and you must cultivate intense zeal for God. You must feel love for Him and be attracted to Him. The gopis of Vrindavan felt the attraction of Krishna. Let me sing you a song. Listen, the flute has sounded in yonder wood. There I must fly, for Krishna waits on the path. Tell me, friends, will you come along or no? To you my Krishna is merely an empty name. To me he is the anguish of my heart. You hear his flute notes only with your ears, but oh, I hear them in my deepest soul. I hear his flute calling, Radha, come out. Without you, the grove is shorn of its loveliness. The master sang the song with tears in his eyes and said to Keshav and the other Brahmo devotees, whether you accept Radha and Krishna or not, please do accept their attraction for each other. Try to create that same yearning in your heart for good. Yearning is all you need in order to realize Him. Gradually, the ebb tide set in. The steamboat was speeding towards Calcutta. It passed under the Howrah Bridge and came within sight of the botanical garden. The captain was asked to go a little farther down the river. The passengers were enchanted with the master's words, and most of them had no idea of time or how far they had come. Keshav began to serve some puffed rice and grated coconut. The guests held these in the folds of their wearing clothes and presently started to eat. Everyone was joyful. The master noticed, however, that Keshav and Vijay rather shrank from each other, and he was anxious to reconcile them. These agreements necessary for enriching life. Master to Keshav, look here, there is Vijay. Your quarrel seems like the fight between Shiva and Rama. Shiva was Rama's guru. Though they fought with each other, yet they soon came to terms. But the grimaces of the ghost, the followers of Shiva, and the gibberish of the monkeys, the followers of Rama, would not come to an end. Loud laughter. Such quarrels take place even among one's own kith and kin. Did not Rama fight with his own sons, Lava and Kusha? Again, you must have noticed how a mother and daughter living together and having the same spiritual end in view observe their religious fast separately on Tuesdays, each on her own account, as if the welfare of the mother were different from the welfare of the daughter, but what benefits the one benefits the other. In like manner, you have a religious society, and Vijay thinks he must have one too. Laughter. But I think all these are necessary. While Sri Krishna himself, God incarnate, played with the gopis at Vrindavan, troublemakers like Jatila and Kutila appeared on the scene. You may ask why. The answer is that the play does not develop without troublemakers or laugh. There is no fun without Jatila and Kutila loud laughter. Ramanuja upheld the doctrine of qualified non-dualism, but his guru was a pure non-dualist. They disagreed with each other and refuted each other's arguments. That always happens. Still, to the teacher, the disciple is his own. All rejoiced in the master's company and his words. Master to Kesab, you don't look into people's natures before you make them your disciples, and so they break away from you. All men look alike to be sure, but they have different natures. Some have an excess of sattva, others an excess of rajas, and still others an excess of tamas. You must have noticed that the cakes known as puli all look alike, but their contents are very different. Some contain condensed milk, some coconut kernel, and others were boiled kalai pulse. All laugh. Master's humility. Do you know my attitude? As for myself, I eat, drink, and live happily. The rest the Divine Mother knows. Indeed, there are three words that prick my flesh: Guru, Master, and Father. There is only one Guru, and that is Sat Chit Ananda. He alone is the teacher. My attitude toward God is that of a child towards its mother. One can get human gurus by the million. All want to be teachers, but who cares to be a disciple? Difficulty of preaching. It is extremely difficult to teach others. A man can teach only if God reveals himself to him and gives the command. Narada, Sukadeva, and sages like them had such a command from God, and Sankara had it too. Unless you have a command from God, who will listen to your words? Don't you know how easily the people of Calcutta get excited? The milk in the kettle puffs up and boils as long as the fire burns underneath. Take away the fuel and all becomes quiet. The people of Calcutta love sensations. You may see them digging a well at a certain place. They say they want water, but if they strike a stone, they give up that place. They begin at another place, and there, perchance, they find sand. They give up the second place too. Next, they begin at a third, and so it goes. But it won't do if a man only imagines that he has God's command. God does reveal himself to man and speak. Only then may one receive his command. How forceful are the words of such a teacher! They can move mountains, but mere lectures, people will listen to them for a few days and then forget them. They will never act upon mere words. At Kamarpukur, there is a small lake called the Haldar Pukur. Certain people used to befoul its bank every day. Others who came there in the morning to bathe would abuse the offenders loudly. But next morning they would find the same thing. The nuisance did not stop or laugh. The villagers finally informed the authorities about it. A constable was sent who put up a notice on the bank which read, "Commit no nuisance." This stopped the miscreants at once. All laughed. To teach others, one must have a badge of authority, otherwise, teaching becomes a mockery. A man who is himself ignorant starts out to teach others like the blind leading the blind. Instead of doing good, such teaching does harm. After the realization of God, one obtains an inner vision. Only then can one diagnose a person's spiritual malady and give instruction. Without the commission from God, a man becomes vain. He says to himself, "I am teaching people." This vanity comes from ignorance, for only an ignorant person feels that he is the doer. A man verily, a man verily becomes liberated in life if he feels God is the doer. He alone is doing everything. I am doing nothing. Man's sufferings and worries spring only from his persistent thought that he is the doer, doing good to others. You people speak of doing good to the world. Is the world such a small thing? And who are you, pray, to do good to the world? First realize God, see Him by means of spiritual discipline. If He imparts power, then you can do good to others, otherwise not. A Brahmo devotee, then, sir, we must give up our activities until we realize God. Master, no. Why should you? You must engage in such activities as contemplation, singing His praises, and other daily devotions. Brahmo, but what about our worldly duties, duties associated with our earning money and so on? Master, yes, you can perform that too, but only as much as you need for your livelihood. At the same time, you must pray to God in solitude with tears in your eyes that you may be able to perform those duties in an unselfish manner. You should say to Him, O God, make my worldly duties fewer and fewer. Otherwise, O Lord, I find that I forget Thee when I am involved in too many activities. I may think I am doing unselfish work, but it turns out to be selfish. People who carry to exercise excess, people who carry to excess the giving of alms or the distributing of food among the poor fall victims to the desire of acquiring name and fame. Shambhu Malik once talked about establishing hospitals, dispensaries and schools, making roads, digging public reservoirs and so forth. I said to him, don't go out of your way to look for such works. Undertake only those works that present themselves to you and are of pressing necessity, and those also in a spirit of detachment. It is not good to become involved in many activities that makes one forget God. Coming to the Kalighat temple, some perhaps spend their whole time in giving alms to the poor. They have no time to see the mother in the inner shrine. Laughter. First of all, manage somehow to see the image of the Divine Mother. One by pushing through the crowd. Then you may or may not give alms as you wish. You may give to the poor to your heart's content if you feel that way. Work is only a means to the realization of God. Therefore I said to Sambhu, suppose God appears before you, then will you ask him to build hospitals and dispensaries for you? Laughter. A lover of God never says that. He will rather say, O Lord, give me a place at thy lotus feet. Keep me always in thy company. Give me sincere and pure love for thee. Path of devotion most elective for Kali Yuga. Karma Yoga is very hard indeed. In the Kali Yuga, it is extremely difficult to perform the rites enjoined in the scriptures. Nowadays, man's life is centered on food alone. He cannot perform many scriptural rites. Suppose a man is laid up with fever. If you attempt a slow cure with a old-fashioned indigenous remedies, before long his life may be snuffed out. He cannot stand much delay. Nowadays, the drastic Gupta mixture is appropriate. In the Kali Yuga, the best way is Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion, singing the praises of the Lord and prayer. The path of devotion alone is the religion for this age. To the Brahmo devotees, yours also is the path of devotion. Blessed you are indeed that you chant the name of Hari and sing the Divine Mother's glories. I like your attitude. You don't call the world a dream like the non-dualists. You are not Brahmgyanis like them. You are Bhaktas, lovers of God. That you speak of him as a person is also good. You are devotees. You will certainly realize him if you call on him with sincerity and earnestness. The boat cast anchor at Kayala Ghat and the passengers prepared to disembark. On coming outside, they noticed that the full moon was up. The trees, the buildings and the boats on the Ganges were bathed in its mellow light. A carriage was hailed for the master and M and a few devotees got in with him. The master asked for Keshav. Presently the latter arrived and inquired about the arrangements made for the master's return to Dakshineshwar. Then he bowed low and took leave of Sri Ramakrishna. The carriage drove Through the European quarter of the city, the master enjoyed the sight of the beautiful mansions on both sides of the well-lighted streets. Suddenly he said, "I am thirsty. What to be done?" Nandlal Keshav's nephew stopped the carriage before the India Club and went upstairs to get some water. The master inquired whether the glass had been well washed. On being assured that it had been washed, he drank the water. As the carriage went along, the master put his head out of the window and looked with childlike enjoyment at the people, the vehicles, the horses, and the streets, all flooded with moonlight. Now and then he heard European ladies singing at the piano. He was in a very happy mood. The carriage arrived at the house of Suresh Mitra, who was a great devotee of the master and whom he addressed affectionately as Surendra. He was not at home. The members of the household opened a room on the ground floor for the master and his party. The cab fare was to be paid. Surendra would have taken care of it had he been there. The master said to a devotee, "Why don't you ask the ladies to pay the fare? They certainly know that their master visits us at Dakshineshwar. I am not a stranger to them." All laughed. Narendra, who lived in that quarter of the city, was sent for. In the meantime, Sri Ramakrishna and the devotees were invited to the drawing room upstairs. The floor of the room was covered with a carpet and a white sheet. A few cushions were lying about. On the wall hung on an oil painting especially painted for Surendra, in which Sri Ramakrishna was pointing out to Keshav the harmony of Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, and other religions. On seeing the picture, Keshav had once said, "Blessed is the man who conceived the idea." Sri Ramakrishna was talking joyously with the devotees when Narendra arrived. This made the master doubly happy. He said to his young disciple, "We had a boat trip with Keshav today. Vijay and many other Brahmo devotees were there." Pointing to him, "Ask him what I said to Keshav and Vijay about the mother and daughter observing their religious fast on Tuesdays, each on her own account, though the welfare of the one meant the welfare of the other." I also said to Keshav that troublemakers like Jatila and Kutila were necessary to lend zest to the play. To M, is not that so? M, yes sir, quite so. It was late. Surendra had not yet returned. The master had to leave for the temple garden and a cab was brought for him. M and Narendra saluted him and took their leave. Sri Ramakrishna's carriage started for Dakshineshwar through the moonlit streets. Chapter number 6. The Master with the Brahmo Devotees. October 28, 1882. It was Saturday. The semi-annual Brahmo festival celebrated each autumn and spring was being held in Benimadhav, Pal's beautiful garden house at Sindhi, about 3 miles north of Calcutta. The house stood in a secluded place suited for contemplation. These trees laden with flowers, artificial lakes with grassy banks and green harbors enhanced the beauty of the grounds, just as the fleecy clouds were turning gold in the light of the setting sun. The master arrived. Many devotees had attended the morning devotions, and in the afternoon people from Calcutta and the neighboring villages joined them. Shivanath, the great Brahmo devotee whom the master loved dearly, was one of the large gathering of members of the Brahmo Samaj who had been eagerly awaiting Sri Ramakrishna's arrival. When the carriage bringing the master and a few devotees reached the garden house, the assembly stood up respectfully to receive him. There was a sudden silence like that which comes when the curtain in a theatre is about to be rung up. People who had been conversing with one another now fixed their attention on the master's serene face, eager not to lose one word that might fall from his lips. Master's joy on seeing Shivanath. At the sight of Shivanath, the master cried out joyously, "Ah, here is Shivanath. You see, you are a devotee of God. The very sight of you gladdens my heart. One hemp smoker feels very happy to meet another. Very often they embrace each other in an exuberance of joy." The devotees burst out laughing. Worldly people's indifference to spiritual life. Master, many people visit the temple garden at Dakshineshwar. If I see some among the visitors indifferent to God, I say to them, "You had better sit over there." Or sometimes I say, "Go and see the beautiful buildings." Laughter. Sometimes I find that the devotees of God are accompanied by worthless people. Their companions are immersed in gross worldliness and don't enjoy spiritual talk at all. Since the devotees keep on for a long time talking with me about God, the others become restless. Finding it impossible to sit there any longer, they whisper to their devotee friends, "When shall we be going? How long will you stay here?" The devotees say, "Wait a bit, we shall go after a little while." Then the worldly people say in a disgusted tone, "Well, then you can talk, we shall wait for you in the boat." All laugh. Power of God's name. Worldly people will never listen to you if you ask them to renounce everything and devote themselves wholeheartedly to God. Therefore, Chaitanya and Nitai, after some deliberation, made an arrangement to attract the worldly. They would say to such persons, "Come, repeat the name of Hari, and you shall have a delicious soup of magar fish and the embrace of a young woman." Many people, attracted by the fish and the woman, would chant the name of God. After tasting a little of the nectar of God's hallowed name, they would soon realize that the fish soup really meant the tears they shed for love of God, while the young woman signifying the earth. The embrace of the woman meant rolling on the ground in the rapture of divine love. Nitai would employ any means to make people repeat Hari's name. Chaitanya said the name of God has very great sanctity. It may not produce an immediate result, but one day it must bear fruit. It is like a seed that has been left on the cornice of a building. After many days, the house crumbles and the seed falls on the earth, germinates, and at last bears fruit. Three classes of devotees. As worldly people are endowed with sattva, rajas, and tamas, so also is bhakti characterized by the three gunas. Do you know what a worldly person endowed with sattva is like? Perhaps his house is in a dilapidated condition here and there. He doesn't care to repair it. The worship hall may be strewn with pigeon droppings and the courtyard covered with moss, but he pays no attention to these things. The furniture of the house may be old. He doesn't think of polishing it and making it look neat. He doesn't care for dresses at all. Anything is good enough for him. But the man himself is very gentle, quiet, kind, and humble. He does not injure anyone. Again, among the worldly, there are people with the traits of Rajas. Such a man has a watch and chain and 2 or 3 rings on his fingers. The furniture of his house is all spick and span. On the walls hang portraits of the Queen, the Prince of Wales, and other prominent people. The building is whitewashed and spotlessly clean. His wardrobe is filled with a large assortment of clothes. Even the servants have their livery and all that. The traits of a worldly man endowed with tamas are sleep, lust, anger, egotism, and the like. Three kinds of bhakti. Similarly, bhakti devotion has its sattva. A devotee who possesses it meditates on God in absolute secret, perhaps inside his mosquito net. Others think he is asleep. Since he is late in getting up, they think perhaps he has not slept well during the night. His love for the body goes only as far as appeasing his hunger, and that only by means of rice and simple grains. There is no elaborate arrangements about his meals, no luxury in clothes, and no display of furniture. Besides, such a devotee never flatters anybody for money. An aspirant possessed of Rajasic Bhakti puts a tilak on his forehead and a necklace of holy Rudraksha beads interspersed with gold ones around his neck. All laugh. At worship he wears a silk cloth. A man endowed with tamasic bhakti has burning faith. Such a devotee literally extorts boons from God, even as a robber falls upon a man and plunders his money, bind, beat, kill. That is his way, the way of the dacoits. Utilizing tamas for spiritual welfare. Seeing this, the master began to sing in a voice sweet with rapturous love. His eyes turned upward. Why should I go to Ganga or Gaya, to Kansi, Kanchi or Prabhas, so long as I can breathe my last with Kali's name upon my lips? What need of rituals has a man? What need of devotions any more? If he repeats the mother's name at the three holy hours, rituals may pursue him close, but never can they overtake him. Charity vows and giving of gifts do not appeal to Madan's mind. The blissful mother's lotus feet are his whole prayer and sacrifice. Who could ever have conceived the power her name possesses? Shiva himself, the god of gods, sings her praise with his five mouths. The master was beside himself with love for the divine mother. He sang with fiery enthusiasm, "If only I can pass away repeating Durga's name, how canst thou then, O blessed one, withhold from me deliverance?" Then he said, "One must take the firm attitude. What, I have chanted the mother's name, how can I be sinner any more? I am her child, heir to her powers and glories. If you can give a spiritual turn to your tamas, you can realize God with itself. Force your demands on God. He is by no means a stranger to you. He is indeed your very own." Illustration of physicians. Again, you see, the quality of tamas can be used for the welfare of others. There are three classes of physicians: superior, mediocre, and inferior. The physician who feels the patient's pulse and just says to him, "Take the medicine regularly," belongs to the inferior class. He doesn't care to inquire whether or not the patient has actually taken the medicine. The mediocre physician is he who in various ways persuades the patient to take the medicine and says to him sweetly, "My good man, how will you be cured unless you see the medicine? Take this medicine. I have made it for you myself." But he who, finding the patient stubbornly refusing to take the medicine, forces it down his throat, going so far as to put his knees on the patient's chest, is the best physician. This is the manifestation of the tamas of the physician. It doesn't injure the patients. On the contrary, it does him good. Three types of gurus. Like the physicians, there are three types of religious teachers. The inferior teacher only gives instruction to the disciples but makes no inquiries about their progress. The mediocre teacher, for the good of the student, makes repeated efforts to bring the instruction home to him, begs him to assimilate it, and shows him love in many other ways. But there is a type of teacher who goes to the length of using force when he finds the student persistently unyielding. I call him the best teacher. Thank you for watching this video. I conclude this video at this point. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thanks a lot. Namaskar my dear friends. Next video number 6 will start with no finality about God's nature. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you.